quality products available. My Emergency Food is 100% committed to providing these high-quality items at the best prices online. Sign up today at wdeanshook.com for their gourmet taste, easy storage, 25 years shelf life, nutritional information, water filtration, and a portable solar power. Come see why Buy Emergency Food is simply the best brands for providing the basic needs when disaster strikes. And they have free shipping on every order. Nothing's easier than their free shipping policy. That's right, 100% free shipping. Your emergency food is usually shipped within 3 business days. It's fast, effective, and free. Does it get any better than that? The food you need when disaster hits. Sign up today at wdeanshook.com. That's wdeanshook.com.
Well, thank you, and welcome to our new sponsors. Appreciate that very much. If you enjoy this program, please visit our sponsors. Go take a look at what they have to offer and help support what we do here. We would appreciate that very, very much. And I want to throw in one more note here before we start our discussion. You know, I want to just mention about the Pope's resignation, because I think we may have a moment of truth going on here for Catholicism. You know, St. Malachi in 1139 made the prediction of every single pope right up to the last one. He predicted the world traveler, which was the Pope before Pope Benedict. He described that Pope Benedict, being Olive's glory, would be right after that, and he predicts the next Pope, who is going to be called Petrus Romus, is going to be the Pope that departs from the faith and joins the Antichrist as the false prophet. And he says that this will happen when the church is among great tribulation. And when I thought about that interview, when the Pope said that he was going to resign, I thought about what St. Malachi said, and especially about the Great Tribulation. You know, when we have all of these scandals with the priests molesting all of these kids, and the number just grows and grows, and the fact that they've been protecting these guys and just shuffling them around instead of getting rid of them, I thought, you know, this is Great Tribulation for the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church, as most of you already know, don't follow the Bible exactly. They take Catholicism and place it first and put the Bible second, which is why they pray to the saints and they pray to Mary. This is the same reason why they changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. You know, for all of you evangelicals who go to church on Sunday, you know, Sunday's not the Sabbath, Saturday is. And this is changed by the Catholic Church. So I think this will be a moment of truth, because we have the opportunity in our lifetime to see with our own eyes. I mean, they can say that in the past that there's been Catholic prophecies that have come true. But we have a chance here to see with our own eyes whether or not this is going to come to pass. Now, you know, the Bible gives a very strict definition of what a prophet is and what a false prophet is. And it sets up a very high standard that if anyone who claims to be a prophet is wrong even once, then he's a false prophet. And the Bible holds itself to that same standard. That applies to everyone, including the Bible itself. So I can't imagine that God would set a standard that he couldn't achieve himself. So we'll see what's going to happen here. If Petrus Romus, Peter of Rome, that is going to be the next pope, if this ends up being the false prophet that departs from the faith and joins the Antichrist. Now, if this is the case, this next pope may very well be in office for a long time before this happens. It may be a short time. We don't know. There's not those kind of details. If this prophecy even comes to pass, because we don't know if this is. I mean, it's not biblical. You know, it doesn't. The Bible doesn't say anything like this. So this is a prophecy that comes from someone who claims to be a prophet, and I guess we'll see, won't we? It'll be interesting to watch, though. You know, I knew that Pope Benedict was supposed to resign actually at the end of last summer. So I knew this day was coming. I knew that we were going to have the opportunity here to see who this next pope is. And there's a lot of things out there, people saying a lot of things. You know, it's going to be a black pope. It's going to be somebody from blah, 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 blah. And they go on and on and on about it, you know, and I'm not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's sit together and just watch and see what happens. Let's watch and see if it ends up being a black pope or a white pope, or if he will be from Rome, or if this will be the one that facilitates the destruction of Rome. We know that there's a lot of economic problems over there. We know that the Middle East is literally on fire. Recently, with the nuclear program in Iran, which is very contentious. You know, we haven't heard anything about that. They're going full steam ahead. In fact, they've ordered 3,000 more centrifuges. And North Korea says, they say that they launched another test. You know, North Korea, though, does this all of the time. This kind of thing, you know, sometimes it is real tests of rocket or nuclear tests, you know, and they had to throw in the fact that they were trying to come up with something small enough to go onto a bomb that would reach the U.S. Well, they did that to inflame the U.S. And, of course, our leadership comes out with some of the most ridiculous statements, you know, saying that, well, we expect the United Nations Security Council to come out with very harsh sanctions. What? North Korea doesn't give diddly squat about any sanctions. They're over there laughing at this. They could care less about their stupid sanctions or some kind of resolution out of the UN. They don't accept any of that. It's all just that's farts in the wind to them. They don't care anything about that. There is no harsh resolution that's going to come out of there that's going to affect North Korea. So, you know, that's just the biggest bunch of hooey. You know, when I seen our politicians talking about that stuff, I said, you got to be kidding me. Like, these people care anything about that. It means nothing to them. Even if they came out with a quote, unquote, strong resolution or strong sanctions. I mean, the people are already dying in the streets from starvation. You know, they're down to doing a Yule Gibbons. They're eating twigs and nuts. They don't care anything about that. Anyway, we'll see what's going to happen with this new pope. All right, I want to give you a quote from John Holden. Now, this, like I said at the beginning of the program, this is Obama's science czar, and he wrote a book in 1977 called Eco-Science, Population, Resources, Environment. Here's what he said, and this is John Holden, Obama's science czar. He said the population at large could be sterilized by infertility drugs intentionally put into the nation's drinking water or in food. Now that, by itself, is an incredibly bold statement for anybody to say, let alone somebody who's in office. I mean, he is an elected appointee of the Obama administration as the science czar. Now, we have somebody who is a science czar talking about putting infertility drugs in the nation's drinking water or in the food in order to achieve depopulation. That is scary. And, you know, Obama must be going along with it. He put him in there. He must think that they're sharing similar views. Let me give you another quote from Prince Philip. You know who Prince Philip is, right? He's the Queen's husband. He said, if I were reincarnated, I would wish to be returned to Earth as a killer virus in order to contribute something to solve overpopulation. Let me say that again. Can you believe these statements? These are true statements, though. This is from Prince Philip. If I were reincarnated, I would wish to be returned to Earth as a killer virus in order to contribute something to solve overpopulation. Let me give you another one. H.G. Wells. He said, the world community of our desires, the organized world community conducting and ensuring its own progress, requires a deliberate collective control of population as a primary condition. H.G. Wells. What do you think about that? Let me give you another quote from the Science Outlook. Now, this dates back to 1931 from Lord Bertrand Russell. Just as the sun worship of the Aztecs demands the painful death of thousands of human beings annually, so the new scientific religion will demand its holocaust of sacred victims. Perhaps by means of injections and drugs and chemicals, the population could be induced to bear whatever its scientific masters may decide is good for it. So this coming from 1931. And then we have the science czar saying the population at large could be sterilized by infertility drugs intentionally put into drinking water and food. See, this is not a spur-of-the-moment thing. This is not a generational or a sign of the times. This is an ongoing thing that's been almost 100 years in the making, and it hasn't changed. They still have the same outlook. And when you hear this interview with Margaret Sanger, you're going to hear her say the very same thing. This interview was from 1957, and this is just the first part of a four-part interview. Let me give you a quote from 1972, Dr. Paul Ehrlich, Stanford University biologist and author of The Population Bomb. Here's what he said. If voluntary birth reduction methods did not work, a nation might have to resort to the addition of a temporary sterilant to staple food or to the water supply. 1972. He's saying the same thing that was said in 1931, the same thing was said in 1972, and the same thing was said by our current science czar, John Holdren, part of the Obama administration. Let me give you a quote from Margaret Sanger. Here's what she said. She said, the most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. That's a quote from Margaret Sanger. And you're going to see in this interview, she comes from a large family. And she believes, and I'm going to read this again, this is a quote, the most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Let me give you another quote from 1991 from Jacques Cousteau. Everyone knows who Jacques Cousteau is, right? The French-speaking bleu, 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 on the ship going out and, all the deep-sea diving. Well, here's what he said, 1991, November of 1991. In order to stabilize the world population, we need to eliminate 350,000 people a day. It's a horrible thing to say, but it's just as bad not to say it. Jacques Cousteau, 1991. Well, is it just our government that thinks that way? Here's a quote from Ted Turner. Right now, there are just way too many people on the planet. a total world population of 250 to 300 million people, a 95% decline from present levels.